let's get right into this explainer. Today we're looking at something I think most of us take completely for granted, and that's the global logistics network. We click a button and boom, a package arrives. Store shelves magically restock while we're sleeping. But behind all that modern convenience, there's this massive, kind of shadowy workforce that operates almost entirely in the dark. And we're going to bring some real focused energy to this today, because we are diving straight into the terrifying vulnerabilities, the absolute extreme isolation, and the very real dangers that long-haul truckers and delivery workers face out there on the open road.
There was no logical explanation to this. This person was clearly hiding from me, waiting. Right? Just imagine that for a second, standing there in pitch black darkness, holding some heavy package, and suddenly realizing you are not alone in the room. The chilling reality here is that the very people who literally bring the world to our doorsteps often have to walk completely blindly into the unknown.
Okay, so let's really dive into this. We're going to look at 3 true, fully documented encounters from the open road, and these escalate from eerie psychological dread right up to active, horrifying crime scenes. We've got to ask ourselves, when your job actually requires you to be completely alone in the middle of nowhere, what would you do when the shadows start moving?
Section 1. The Black Scarf, a Kansas highway at midnight.
All right, let's ground our first story in some science here. It was a freezing cold February night. This trucker is driving his semi through Kansas, just pushing hard through those midnight hours. He's fighting severe exhaustion, right? And suddenly, he spots this figure standing in the dark road. A man wearing all black, with this black scarf wrapped around a really unnaturally long neck, and his face is just a complete blur. Then, the figure just darts into the woods. Now, logically, we can look at sleep deprivation, maybe highway hypnosis to kind of explain this away, just a tired mind playing super vivid, terrifying tricks on him.
But here is where the true horror actually begins. So with about 40 minutes left in his drive, he just can't keep his eyes open safely anymore. The trucker finds this small gravel clearing, pulls the semi over to finally get some sleep. Less than an hour later, he wakes up. Absolute pitch black darkness. He gets this deep, sinking gut feeling telling him to turn on his headlights. So he flicks the knob, and standing exactly in front of his truck, exactly 10 miles down the road from where he first saw him, is that same man with the black scarf. Except this time, his face isn't blurred. He's got this incredibly wide smile, and his eyes are open just as wide as humanly possible, staring directly at the driver right through the windshield. Obviously, the driver immediately starts the truck and just floors it out of there. Now, you can try to rationalize that as, a waking nightmare brought on by sheer exhaustion. But what happens when the threat isn't just a hallucination? Seriously, what happens when the danger is physical, it's calculated, and it is actively waiting for you?
Section 2. The trailer setup. A UPS delivery in the dark.
Picture this. It's the dead of winter 2010. A UPS driver in a super isolated part of North Carolina pulls up to a trailer to deliver this incredibly heavy, weirdly rattling box. And it's wild how these totally mundane corporate steps slowly lead him right into a trap. So he lugs the box up to the unlit door. Finally, this fidgety woman answers, and her trailer just reeks of this awful stench. She demands he maneuver this heavy box down a dark, super narrow hallway and into a pitch black closet. Relying on just this tiny sliver of light, he sees it, just the outline of a person standing completely silently in the corner, waiting. The driver instantly knew this wasn't an accident, right? This person was hiding, waiting for him specifically. So he drops the box, immediately walks right past the woman and just says, "Have a nice day." But the absolute second he bolted, the whole dynamic shifted. The woman starts screaming at him to come back, cursing at him, calling him every name in the book as he frantically escapes the trailer. He narrowly avoided whatever horrific ambush they had planned for him in that unlit room. Honestly, no surprise here, he quit shortly after.
So that driver trusted his instincts and got away safely. But what happens when you try to be a good Samaritan? Our final story here escalates from an escape trap into just undeniable, absolutely chilling, true crime.
Section 3. The Desert Crime Scene, a California highway rescue.
Okay, so we've got a driver transporting a huge trailer full of wooden furniture, making this massive long haul directly across the state of California. His route takes him through miles and miles of just open, totally desolate desert roads at night. Up ahead, he spots the flashing hazard lights of an early 2000s Chevy Impala just parked in the dirt on the side of the road. Naturally, wanting to help, he pulls his massive rig over. He checks the car. Nobody inside. So he runs back to his truck, grabs his heavy-duty tactical flashlight, and as that blindingly bright beam cuts through the total darkness, it reveals an abandoned dirt gas station, and the front door, it's permanently jammed open. He walks up to the doorway, shining his flashlight inside this hollowed-out convenience store. He calls out, his voice echoing a bit in the empty room. And then he hears it. Just the unmistakable scrape of a shoe against the floor on the complete opposite side of the room, behind some old shelves. He calls out again, offering to help. And then, from the absolute darkness, accompanied by the sound of heavy, rhythmic breathing in the corner, this deep, incredibly heavy whisper just responds, "Get out."
As you can imagine, the driver absolutely panics, sprints back to his truck, and immediately dials 911. Suddenly, out of nowhere, that Impala's engine roars to life. A woman screams bloody murder into the night as the car just speeds off down the desert road. Keeping the 911 dispatch on the line, the terrified driver rushes back inside the gas station to check for victims. No one's left. But right there on the floor, he discovers a massive, completely fresh pool of blood. And this brilliantly illustrates how incredibly fast a totally routine drive can just spiral into pure horror. I mean, in just a matter of minutes, this trucker went from trying to be a helpful passerby to being the absolute primary witness in an active, unsolved crime scene. State troopers eventually arrived, they took blood samples right off the floor, but there was absolutely no body left behind. And because it was so incredibly dark, the driver couldn't even catch a license plate. Whoever that man was, and whatever actually happened to that screaming woman, they just vanished completely into the desert.
Section 4. Escaping the unknown. Vulnerability of the open road.
When we look at these collectively, the Kansas Midnight Run, that insane delivery trap, and the desert rescue, a very unsettling picture really forms for us. So the crucial point is this: the inherent vulnerabilities of this line of work are just staggering. It's not just the severe isolation or the extreme darkness, though those are bad enough. The truest danger is the strict job requirement to continuously enter entirely unknown environments. They have absolutely no idea what is waiting on the other side of a closed door, inside an abandoned building, or just standing there on the shoulder of a completely deserted highway. We honestly rarely think about the human element of our supply chain. But the next time you get a package delivered to your door in the dead of winter, long after the sun has gone down, just take a moment to think about what that driver is actually walking into. We really need to appreciate the unseen risks and the terrifying solitude they face every single shift just to keep our world moving. It leaves us with a thought that is genuinely hard to shake. We trust the roads to be these perfectly safe, empty conduits from point A to point B. But out there in the vast, completely unlit stretches of the country, when you are miles from help on a desolate road, who is really waiting for you in the dark? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer today, guys. Stay safe out there.